It all started when the small town of Millfield was rocked by a series of murders. The victims were all young women, and their bodies were found in a horrible and gruesome state, strangled, beaten, and arranged in strange ways. The town was thrown into a state of panic, and the police were unable to find any leads. They were baffled by the killer's motive and modus operandi. The murders continued unabated, with no end in sight. One day, a farmer named Jedediah was out tending to his pigs when he noticed that one of them had a strange growth on its head. Upon closer inspection, he realized that it wasn't a growth at all, but rather a pig's head that had been crudely stitched onto a human body. Jedediah immediately called the police, who were shocked by what they found. The killer had apparently been using the pig's head as a mask to hide their true identity. They were dubbed the Pigmen by the media, and the hunt for the killer intensified. The police went into overdrive, trying to find any clues that could lead them to the killer's identity. They questioned everyone in the town, from the mayor to the garbage collector. But their efforts were in vain, as the killer continued to evade them. One day, a rookie detective named Alex was assigned to the case. He was young, ambitious, and eager to make a name for himself. He threw himself into the investigation, spending hours poring over evidence and interviewing witnesses. As he delved deeper into the case, he began to notice a pattern. All of the victims had been known to frequent a particular bar on the outskirts of town. Alex decided to pay the bar a visit, hoping to find someone who could shed some light on the case. The bar was dark and dingy, filled with rough-looking patrons. Alex approached the bartender and showed him a photo of the pigman. The bartender shook his head and said he'd never seen him before. But as Alex was about to leave, he noticed a man sitting in the corner of the bar, his face obscured by a hooded sweatshirt. Something about the man's demeanor made Alex suspicious, and he decided to approach him. "Excuse me, sir, have you seen this man before?" Alex asked, showing the man a photo of the pigman. The man looked up, revealing a face that made Alex's blood run cold. It was the face of a pig, with a snout, beady eyes, and a mouth that curled into a grotesque snarl. Alex stumbled back in horror, drawing his gun. The other patrons of the bar rose to their feet, eyeing him warily. Alex tried to back away, but the pigman was already on his feet, advancing towards him with a gleaming knife in his hand. Alex was chased out of the bar by the pigman and fled into the woods, with the killer hot on his heels. He stumbled through the undergrowth, his heart pounding in his chest. He could hear the pigman's heavy breathing and the sound of his hooves crunching the leaves underfoot. Alex knew that he had to find a way to outsmart the pigman if he wanted to survive. He took a deep breath and began to climb a nearby tree, using his training as a former Boy Scout to help him. The pigman was close behind, but Alex managed to scramble to the top of the tree just in time. He looked down and saw the pigman staring up at him, his pig face twisted into a snarl. Alex knew that he had to stay up in the tree until help arrived, or risk being caught by the killer. But as he sat in the tree, waiting for rescue, Alex realized that he had made a grave mistake. He had given away his position to the killer, and now the pigman knew where to find him. Alex heard the sound of rustling leaves below him and looked down to see the pigman climbing up the tree, his knife in hand. Alex tried to climb higher, but the pigman was too fast. He reached Alex's perch and began to climb onto the branch beside him. Alex could see the killer's eyes burning with an animalistic rage, and he knew that he was in mortal danger. He drew his gun and aimed it at the pigman, but the killer was too quick. He swiped at Alex with his knife, causing him to lose his balance and fall from the tree. Alex hit the ground with a sickening thud and lay there dazed and injured. The pigman loomed over him, raising his knife for the final blow. Alex tried to crawl away, but his body wouldn't obey him. As the pigman brought down his knife, a gunshot rang out, and the killer fell to the ground, dead. The police had arrived just in time to save Alex's life and put an end to the reign of terror that the pigman had unleashed on the town. In the aftermath of the investigation, it was revealed that the pigman was actually a local farmer named Earl, who had suffered a mental breakdown after the death of his wife and child. He had become obsessed with pigs, believing that they were the only animals pure enough to understand his pain. Earl had begun to wear the pig's head as a way to escape from his own reality, and had turned to murder as a way to express his rage and despair. It was a tragic end to a tragic life, and the people of Millfield were left to grapple with the aftermath of the horror that Earl had inflicted upon them. Years passed, and the memory of the pigman began to fade from the minds of the people of Millfield. But for those who had lived through the terror, the memory of the pig-faced killer would haunt them forever. Some claimed that they could still hear the sound of the pigman's hooves in the woods at night, or catch a glimpse of his twisted face in the shadows. Others said that the pigman had become a legend, a cautionary tale to warn the next generation of the dangers that lurked in the darkness. But for Alex, the memory of the pigman would stay with him forever. He had come face to face with evil, and it had changed him in ways that he could never have imagined. He would never forget the horror of that night, and he knew that he could never let his guard down again. If you like my story, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video for more and similar stories.